Says we're live. Maybe I didn't do it long enough. So maybe it's going to get me talking. It's gonna be like that. Keep your fingers crossed. Keep your fingers crossed. All right. Guess what time it is, everybody? First of all, how's everybody doing? Today is July 3rd, 2022. So that means it's Sunday. And today's Sunday bars is how cultural worry and stress decreases Black femininity. Next comes trauma responses. Here we go. Now, my big brother Red said, we are living in a deluge of information. We are in an information overload. We are drowning in information. Literally, we are literally drowning in information. You can watch this live, like right now. You can watch this live right now, and then you can go and watch 100 other lives in one day. Mixing applicable info, because I'm not going to say all these lives are going to have good info, but or bad info or whatever, but let's just say you're mixing applicable info with unapplicable info, false info, ego-based info. Oh, we got to put the ego in there. Reused info. They didn't even make that up. They just reused that. And guess what? We don't even give the info enough time to properly download in us because we have over options. We have too many options. We have over options. So it's my intentions that this info stays applicable in your lives in some way. So that was the show intentions. So let's go deep into it. So again, how cultural worry and stress decreases Black femininity. Now, there are 4 elements in all of us, especially women. Number 1, water. Number 2, fire. Number 3, earth. Number 4, air. I'm going to say this again. There are 4 elements in all of us, especially women. What about men? We're not talking about men today. So if I say something, should I say, what about men? Yeah, but you're just being weird because we're talking about women on this one and not in a judgmental state, because I edited a lot of stuff that I really wanted to say. But I said, nah, I'm not going to make this judgmental. I'm going to make this more to the point. So we're talking about women right now. We can what about the man all you want, but just go to another live because, again, we're in information overload. So go there with that. We're talking about women right now. And when we talk about men, and they be like, well, what about the women? We're going to tell that same weirdo what we're telling you right now. Just the weirdo. Here we go. There are 4 elements in all of us, especially women. Number 1, water. Fire. Number 2. Number 3, earth. Number 4, air. Different cultures of good and bad advice affects different parts of our elements. What elements? I wasn't paying attention. There are 4 elements in all of us, especially women. Number 1, water. Number 2, fire. Number 3, earth. Number 4, air. So different cultures of good and bad advice affects different parts of our elements. Many men believe that women are only to be the water element, the motherly type. What's wrong with women right now? You know what I mean? They just acting different. Well, they could be acting different when in all actuality, a lot of women are operating out of their fire energies. Some earth types and a little bit of airheads in there. I'm just playing very seriously. Sometimes you're one, like water. Sometimes you're two, I'm just fire. Sometimes you're three, I'm earth, I'm grounded, I'm just, and then again, sometimes you're the proverbial air. Everything's burning up around you and you're like, oh my God, what about the economy? Like, just say you're a dinosaur and a meteor or an asteroid is going to hit the earth. And everybody's like, oh my God, we about to die. And you're the dinosaur like, oh my God, what about the economy? They would say, what is wrong with you, dinosaur? A lot of you are a dinosaur, but a lot of you are not. And a lot of us have been that dinosaur before. So remember, Earth, that's the good or bad influences around us to be grounded. Remember, air is the good and bad influences around our creativity. Fire, it's the good and bad influences around our passionate flames. Water, it's the good and bad influences around our peaceful flows. Here's a question real quick. Are you peaceful flow or are you a raging river? Because remember, we are four elements. We can't escape this. I'm a water. Are you a peaceful flow or are you a raging river? You're still water. One just destroys everything it touches. And one is a peaceful flow. Okay. So naturally, okay, he's talking about women and he's talking about how cultural worry and stress decreases black femininity. Are you going to talk about the bad or the negative fire elements? Are negative fire element topics and outcomes? Yes. Yes, I am. Okay. I thought you was going to be racist and stuff. Well, again, we're talking about elements. We'll let a lot of you weirdos stick to racism, and we'll stick to molecules and science and stuff that's really not going anywhere and never really went anywhere. And we'll let you stick with your little new concepts. You stand on those new concepts. Dr. Stephanie E. Jones Rogers is an American historian. She is an associate professor of history at the University of California, Berkeley, and the author of They Were Her Property. They Were Her Property. White Women as Slave Owners in the American South. So again, she's the author of They Were Her Property, White Women as Slave Owners in the American South. Now, this book places women in the central role in the narrative of white power in the United States. She focuses on the white women in the early republic who actually held African Americans captive, who dictated their daily lives, and who fully participated in the brutality and exploitation of slavery in the United States. In doing so, she challenges women's presumptions to innocence in the unholy business of racialized power. As she concludes, she said, Southern white women's roles in upholding and sustaining slavery form part of the larger history of white supremacy and oppression. They were not passive bystanders. They were co-conspirators. That's page 205. Now, Jones Rogers explores the life of the Southern woman slaveholder from birth to marriage. And watch this. Even to an extent into death, as well as examining their wills and estates. So she was even dissecting this information to even make these claims, even in their death, because she was examining their wills and estates. No, she did her homework. So that's the reason why I put this on there. She did her homework with this. Now, I'm taking what she's saying and I'm adding fire elements and molecules and stuff to it. Watch. Like I said, I'll let y'all stick to racism and stuff. Oh, that's deep, racism and stuff. I want to stop here real quick. If there was a black person in the room and a white person in the room and a higher power, some people are religious who are racist, so a higher power, or some people who are racist and not religious, let's just say you got a light bulb of that black guy is going to save your life in this room. But I hate black people and I like my white brothers. And no, your white brother is not going to be able to hold you. That black dude's going to save your life. We're about to have there's about to be an issue right now. That black guy's going to save your life. He actually works out in the way that his body needs to save you to even save you. Now, that white guy is your brother, but he's not going to be able to, or vice versa. Man, I'm just looking for my brothers. And that white dude going to save your life. Would you listen to that higher power, or would you say, man, I'm just sticking to my own? I'm silly. I would try it. I would listen to that higher power. I've done it a lot of times, and everybody in the room is like, you're wrong, because it's different. And I tried it, and it felt. Now, everybody else, I'm to the point now where I said, like, whatever with that. But while I was waiting for it to work, I would talk crazy to him. So it'd be like, talk crazy, talk crazy, talk crazy, talk crazy, talk crazy. And then it worked. And I'm like, I don't have anybody to fight. So I'm going to say this again. Jones Rogers explores the life of the Southern woman slaveholder from birth to marriage, and even to the extent to death as well, examining their wills and estates. She describes in aching detail how Southern households reproduced slave societies. Southern children of both genders grew up watching their parents. What did they watch their parents do? Watching their parents exert mastery over black people and then mimicked these behaviors. I'm not trying to be funny. What else would they not copy? I mean, why would they not copy that? I actually understood. I was like, yeah, I understand it from that perspective. The book's first chapter begins with Lizzie Ann Burrell. She's age 3. She's 3 years old. She demanded her father cut Fanny's ears off and acquire a new maid from Clarksville because they gave that little 3-year-old girl a dominance over a grown woman. And at 3 years old, that made the most sense. Parents gave children enslaved people as gifts. Enslaved people had to call their owners children, master and mistress. It's page 5 and 6. So, much of the book, They Were Her Property, examines the role of white women in the human trafficking of enslaved people. He's about to go at white women. Stay tuned. Watch how this turns. This is many turns. So whatever you think I'm going, watch how it goes like this. And then if you think I'm going this way, watch how it goes. This was a roller coaster lecture. Okay, so much of They Were Her Property examines the role of white women in human trafficking of enslaved people, in imagining white women as delicate and sheltered. Some historians have claimed that they did not attend auctions and markets. Like, white women didn't attend slave auctions and markets. According to this, some historians, not all historians, some historians, they claim that they did not attend slave auctions or markets and had little roles in the commerce in human bodies. According to her book, this was not the case. Travelers, slave traders, city officials, and even enslaved people all attested to the presence of white women in 19th century slave markets. Page 127. Now, women also bought and sold human beings from their own homes, often within local social networks or from other traders. How did they do it? Well, some did business as slave traders, and others fronted capital to men who did so, like Matilda Bushy, page 144 to 146. Now, white women helped create a whole market in enslaved wet nurses. The subject of They Were Her Property, 5th chapter, white mothers determined whether they could withstand the physical toll it took of breastfeeding imposed on them. Consequently, they were the ones who decided whether to borrow, hire, or buy an enslaved wet nurse. Even if a man, it said even if a man might finalize the transaction. So she would want it, and then she would have the man finalize the transaction in the slave market. That's on page 122. Now, this allowed white mothers the freedom. Watch this. This allowed white mothers the freedom to pursue social lives or compensated for the physical inability to breastfeed their children at the time. Okay? So now, white women were also fully implicated in the physical and sexual brutality of U.S. slavery. The book describes mistresses so violent that their husbands had to restrain them. That's on page 72 and 73. Now, white mistresses often invested in the enslaved woman in the hopes that their captives will bear children. I said, wow, okay. Henrietta Butler told the 1930s Federal Writers Project interviewers that her mistress, Emily Haiti, had forced her and her mother to have sex with enslaved men. Page 21. Masters also used to rape to ensure a supply of women to serve as wet nurses. So, according to this book, this is on page 106 and 108, the slave masters will look around and say, whoa, we need, according to this book, that this is their intentions. And again, I've read so many books that say different as far as, no, the slave owners were attracted to black women and stuff like that. But this does make sense as far as how they would try to explain it from a corporate level. This is a corporate racism explanation, all in one burger. So according to this book, and I'm not discrediting her and saying no, it's just so many different reasons for this, but this is one that I was like, that makes sense. Now, according to this book, it said masters also used to rape to ensure a supply of women to serve as wet nurses, page 106 and 108. Now, other times they hired women. How can you hire women? Well, they hire women who lost their babies through miscarriage or infant mortality. Now watch this. Oh my God, I bet they was really nice to those women. Well, according to this book, they dismissed the nurse's grief and pain as sulking. Jason, that's your opinion. That's on page 121. Some white women ran brothels staffed by enslaved people. That's on page 146 and through 149. One of the most chilling single stories involves Rose Russell, whose mistress asked, watch this, now this was crazy. I'm going to say this again. One of the most chilling single stories involves Rose Russell, whose mistress asked which parent did she love the most. Now again, she's asking a young black girl. And the mistress, the female slave owner said, which parent do you love the most? She said her father. And the mistress promptly, the book says promptly, sold her mother. This is on page 135. So I said, man, black girl magic was under attack back then. During those times. So according to, now again, I'm off the book now, back to what I'm trying to say, or trying to explain, or try to get across. Because I know a lot of y'all like, man, this is getting racist. Man, if you just talk about it and I feel uncomfortable, this feels racist. Who cares? So, according to the 4 elements that make up humans. Oh, okay, Jason, I see what you're talking about now. Yeah. That stuff is cool. I promise you that stuff is cool. But according to the 4 elements that make up humans, these were a few fiery examples of how bad fire advice and bad fiery energy exchange, acting upon bad fire energy, co-creates the inevitable bad fire energy outcomes that could have began with the energy transfers of stress and worry. What does that do? That decreases divine femininity. You call it divine femininity? Why'd you call it divine femininity? Because divine femininity is what God created. Into toxic femininity, that's what humans co-create with other humans. I'll say that again. Someone say, yo, say it again. Say it again. So according to the 4 elements that make up humans, these were a few fiery examples of how bad fire advice and bad fiery energy exchange and acting upon bad fire energy co-creates the inevitable. What's the inevitable? A bad fire energy outcome that could have begun. Now again, it's something else. You know, my uncle this one time that could have begun with the energy transfer. And I'm going to show you who's transferring it. The transfer of stress and worry that decreases divine femininity, what God created, into toxic femininity, what humans co-created with other humans. Since we are examining the effects of worry and stress on Black women, we must study how stress and worry affects the women who gave birth to the white men that some claim to run the world. I'll say that again. Since we are examining the effects of worry and stress on Black women, we must study how stress and worry affects the women who give birth to the white men that some claim to run the whole world. Okay, I get it, Jason. You had to say it twice and slow for me to understand what you were saying. Because if you talk fast, everything sounds racist. If you're talking about racism too, if you talk fast about, if y'all don't say stuff 2 or 3 times, if you talking about racist topics, people will be like, he is racist. I'm like, what'd he say? Well, it sounded like, you better say that like 10 more times. Because people waiting to be racist. I know he was racist. What'd he do? Talk about a racist topic and didn't repeat it. And I was quick to judge him. I was quick. I was listening quick. I would say something bad. Woo! I knew he was racist. I can't wait to know your name, to erase and block you. We're gonna find out who you are. Okay, Jason. I hear you talking about worry and stress. Where's your definitions at? You usually be giving definitions. Okay, let's give the definition of worry and stress, and y'all tell me what y'all think about it. And I'm telling y'all, everything that I say with worry, especially the synonyms, not too much with stress, but the synonyms of worry, y'all gonna be like, man, that's what happened to everybody every day. Man, that sounds like everyday life. The definition of worry is to give way to anxiety or unease. Allow one's mind to dwell on difficulty or troubles. A state of an anxiety or uncertainty over actual or potential problems. So the definition of worry is to give way to anxiety or unease, to allow one's mind to dwell on difficulty or troubles, a state of an anxiety or uncertainty over actual, I told you it was true, or potential problems. Let's get these synonyms in. It's a lot, but tell me we ain't going through this. And when I say we, I'm not saying I'm fighting this. But we are going through versus, you know how everybody's saying that. Go through, don't stop. Or Steve Harvey said, or anxiety, disturbance, perturbation. So perturbed, but perturbation, trouble, bother, distress, concern, upset, uneasiness, unease, disquiet, fretfulness, restlessness, nervousness, nerves, agitation, edginess, tension, stress, strain, apprehension, fear, fearfulness, dread, foreboding, trepidation, butterflies in the stomach, the willies, the heebie-jeebies, the shakes, the jumps, jitterness. You can put those in a sentence of what people post on social media of what they go through on a weekly basis. So we know worrying is going down, not only in the DMs of our minds, but outer as well. So stress, the definition of stress, pressure or tension exerted on a material object. Shout out to the 3D reality, which we're living. So pressure or tension exerted on a material object. A state of mental, a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or demanding circumstances. Think about demanding circumstances. That sounds like somebody with a killer career. Literally, a killer career. Quick question. This is deep. I like this one. Cause I thought we was talking about worry and stress and how it decreases. I promise you, we're building. It's gonna make sense if you stay with me. Well, I only like to watch 3 minutes of videos, and it's not gonna make sense to you. Well, I like to watch a little bit of the videos and make judgments about people. Well, make that video off of your 3 minutes of skimming, and you'll look smart to some people. Quick question. If you see a woman that you used to be married to, or you used to date, but not anymore, do you own her? Watch this. Hopefully everybody should feel like, oh my God, Jason, that's a weird question. Please. That's why I'm going to say it again. Because remember, when you're talking about weird stuff, you got to at least say it 2 to 3 times. Because people are quick to, man, I'm about to get offended. So they get offended and you say it again and they're like, but if they stay offended, that means but we'll talk about that later. Okay. So I'm going to say it again because I want you to be like, Jason, that's crazy. Because it is crazy. If you see a woman that you used to date or be married to, but not anymore, do you own her like I own this cup? Or should a man feel like he owns a woman? Which is a toxic behavior pattern, right? Watch this. Everybody in the room. Yeah. Right. Jason, I know what you're doing. So watch this. Do you know that there are other cultures that see black people and say, my ancestors used to own you, so I own you now? Which is a toxic behavioral pattern, right? Right. So when I set it up the first way, yeah, that's crazy. But when I set it up that way, that can make rooms be quiet. The book, They Were Her Property, wasn't even watch this. It wasn't even about elite slave ownership. So it wasn't even like, oh my God, they own all these slaves. No, that's elite slave ownership. This book wasn't even about elite slave ownership. These women owned about like 1 to 10 slaves. Unlike Marsha Washington, shout out to Marsha Washington, who was an elite slave owner with a high double digit. She had high double digits. Question. Are majority of the Americans the mental children of white women? Or if not, did white women transfer their minds to everybody in America? Check this out. Look at white women's roles in American slavery, American education, American law. I'll say American law one more time, in American law, and even in the American medical field. Are we really out here putting our minds to things from the white woman's mental starting point? Watch this. Jason, there you go. He acting weird again. Nuh-uh. Because if you look at a white girl who was raised by a white woman, that white girl who might listen to rap music and get dreadlocks and just rebel when their parents are like, what mind is in her? Some people need balance when they're thinking about things. So let me do the same thing for the black community. Look at the Carlton role in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. According to his ancestors, Carlton didn't act like them, but what mind was in him? Now, again, this is not one of those clever philosophical points to where it's like, nuh-uh, because the black man created words, and I understand that point, but that's not what the point I'm trying to prove here. So what I'm saying that is, y'all got to get past these colors, man, and look at the minds and the energies that make these colors work. Because y'all always be like, man, it's that race, it's that race. And it's like, but what about the people in that race that will help you? Now, watch this. I didn't say like you. I said will help you. It was white people that helped Harriet Tubman. And it was white people that wanted to take Harriet Tubman out of here. But it wasn't all. So, poor listeners want to talk, Jason. All right, let them talk. Talk, poor listeners. Are you saying white women are mysteriously running everything? No, poor listeners, I didn't say that. I said it can't be all the same white women with the same agenda, because the young white women rebel against their mothers and elderly women, and the mothers rebelled against their mothers in their communities. And guess what? This happens in every other race and culture too. But since we're all talking about America, then America is. So I'll rephrase that. Since we're talking about America, then is America the mind of a particular white woman? I said particular. Because it's not just one type. This comes from actual interviews I do with white women about this topic. Watch this. For decades. Because if you study white women's mental health, you can see this for ourselves. That much of what she does, Americans and newly accepted Americans, y'all do the same thing. I promise you. So, some slave stories about white women were created to benefit a select few of them. All white women are not filthy rich, happy, stress-free, and ruling the world. Professor Gates said in his documentary, "He who owns the past, I own the past, owns the future." Recapturing the narrative of the past is crucial. Recapturing the narrative of the past is crucial. Because there's patterns, guys. Everybody looking at the avalanche. Oh my God, there's an avalanche. Look at the little snowball or the little shift that starts.